My son has always had a deep fascination with space. From the moment he could speak, he was asking me about planets, stars, and the mysteries of the universe. As a fourth-grade student, he would spend hours reading books on space exploration and watching documentaries. He felt immense pride in knowing that his father worked at NASA, particularly with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL. He would tell his friends and teachers that his dad worked with scientists to send rovers to Mars, and he was always excited to share that with anyone who would listen. One day, during a career day event at school, my son eagerly shared with his class what I do for a living. He spoke about my work at NASA and how I help design spacecraft that explore outer space. Unfortunately, his enthusiasm was met with skepticism. Mrs. K, his teacher, interrupted him mid-sentence and accused him of making up stories. She told him that NASA engineers don't live in their area, implying that he was fabricating his father's profession. My son, though usually confident, was taken aback by the accusation. It was the first time someone had questioned the truth of his words, and it hurt him deeply. That evening, my son came home visibly upset. He told my wife and me what had happened, his voice quivering as he relayed Mrs. K's comment. It was hard to see him so disheartened, especially because he had never experienced anything like this before. As a parent, I knew I had to take action. We sat down with him and had a heart-to-heart conversation. We reassured him that we believed in him, that his passion for space was real, and that there was nothing wrong with being proud of his dad's work. We also explained that sometimes adults, even teachers, can make mistakes. But I could see that it was still weighing on him. After a few days of thinking it over, I decided to reach out to Mrs. K. I knew it was important to address the situation directly, not just for my son's sake, but for the sake of setting things right. I sent an email requesting a meeting with her to discuss the incident. In the email, I calmly explained that I work for NASA, specifically with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that my son had been sharing accurate information about my job. I asked for a chance to clear up the misunderstanding and to have a conversation about how we could support my son's excitement for space without any further doubts. The meeting was set up for the following week, and I walked into Mrs. K's classroom feeling a mix of determination and frustration. I explained to her as clearly as I could what my job entailed and how proud my son was of my work. I also showed her some materials from NASA and JPL, including press releases and photos of some of the missions I had been a part of. I hoped this would be enough to convince her that my son's words weren't fabrications. Unfortunately, Mrs. K remained dismissive, stating that it was difficult to believe that someone working at NASA could live in our area. She seemed reluctant to accept the reality of the situation, and I could sense her discomfort. I won't lie, it was disheartening to see someone so confident in their mistake, especially after I had taken the time to provide proof. But I stayed calm, reminding myself that the goal was to make sure my son felt supported. After some back and forth, Mrs. K finally agreed that she had misunderstood. She apologized to me for questioning my son and promised to personally apologize to him. But more than that, she agreed to clear up the situation with the entire class, acknowledging her mistake publicly. Despite the rocky start, I could see that Mrs. K was genuinely sorry for what had happened. She even suggested that I come to the school to give a presentation about NASA and space exploration, something I hadn't even considered but was now excited to do. To my surprise, Mrs. K seemed enthusiastic about the idea, and she was eager to show the students how much they could learn from real-world experiences. A few weeks later, I stood in front of a classroom full of curious fourth graders, all wide-eyed and eager to hear about space. I shared stories of missions to Mars, the technology behind rovers like Curiosity, and the fascinating discoveries that scientists make when they explore the cosmos. I could tell that my son was beaming with pride as he watched me speak. He was no longer embarrassed or upset by the teacher's earlier comments. He was proud of the work his dad did, and now, so were his classmates. The presentation was a huge success. The students were genuinely interested, asking questions, and imagining what it would be like to travel to space. My son stood tall, knowing that the words he had shared were not only true, but also exciting for others to hear. It was a moment of growth for both of us. The incident with Mrs. K didn't end with just an apology. It sparked a change in her as well. She took the time to reflect on the situation, and I noticed that she was more open to learning from her mistakes. She even invited me to collaborate with her on future classroom activities related to space, science, and exploration. I could see that she was trying to make it right and had learned a valuable lesson about questioning children's words without understanding their truth. Ultimately, this experience brought my son and me closer together. It taught me the importance of standing up for my child, especially when their dreams and words are being questioned. It also reinforced the idea that sometimes, when we face challenges, there's an opportunity for growth, not just for us, but for everyone involved. My son had a stronger sense of self after the experience, and I felt proud not only of his passion for space, but of how we handled the situation together as a family. As time went on, the experience continued to shape our family in subtle but meaningful ways. My son, no longer the shy, hesitant child who was embarrassed about his enthusiasm for space, became even more confident in his passion. His classmates, many of whom had initially doubted his story, now looked at him with a new sense of respect. The whole episode had unexpectedly become a turning point for him, transforming him from a boy with a dream into a young advocate for his own truth. At home, we saw a shift as well. His excitement for learning deepened. He started researching more about the history of space exploration, bringing home books, and even trying to build his own rocket out of cardboard and glue. His newfound enthusiasm didn't stop at school. He began sharing his newfound knowledge with family members, friends, and even strangers who were curious about his interest in space. The confidence he gained from standing up for his passion was something that would stay with him for a long time, long after the incident with Mrs. K had faded from everyone's memory. For my wife and me, the situation also served as a reminder of how important it is to nurture our children's dreams and interests, no matter how unique or unconventional they may seem. It was a reminder that children, especially at a young age, often need the support of the adults around them to feel validated. When those around them, including teachers, question their reality, it can be deeply hurtful. It reaffirmed that our role as parents wasn't just to guide them through life, but also to stand by them when they face challenges and adversity. As for Mrs. K, she truly did show a remarkable level of growth. I noticed that she began incorporating more discussions about science and space into her lessons. She started to encourage her students to dream big and explore new fields of knowledge. It was clear that she had reflected deeply on her behavior, and she took it upon herself to ensure that no other student would feel dismissed or invalidated the way my son had. She even took it a step further by creating a space week for her class, where she invited guest speakers, astronomers, scientists, and even a local astronaut to share their experiences. It was heartwarming to see that the very mistakes she made had become the catalyst for something positive. Mrs. K's openness to learning from her error demonstrated real humility, and it was something I came to deeply respect. In the weeks following my son's presentation, I stayed in touch with Mrs. K and volunteered to assist with other science-related activities. We had many discussions about how best to foster curiosity in young minds, especially in areas that might seem far removed from their everyday lives. The more we collaborated, the more I realized how important it was for teachers to engage with their students' interests in a meaningful way without dismissing them out of hand. It was clear that Mrs. K had learned an important lesson in empathy and had committed to becoming a better educator because of it. Looking back, what started as a hurtful incident turned into an opportunity for personal growth, not just for my son and me, but for Mrs. K as well. It was a reminder that we all make mistakes, but it's how we handle those mistakes and learn from them that truly matters. For my son, it was a lesson in resilience, in standing up for what you believe in, and in how one person's belief in you can change everything. For me, it reaffirmed the importance of being an advocate for your child, of being present in their lives when they face challenges, and of showing them that standing up for what's right is always worth it. The entire experience reinforced one core truth. The journey to success, whether it's in space or in life, isn't always straightforward. There will be obstacles, misunderstandings, and moments when it feels like the world is against you. But it's how we respond to those challenges, how we lift ourselves and others up in the face of adversity. That defines who we are and the kind of world we help shape. I was proud of my son for how he handled the situation, and even prouder of the way he had turned it into an opportunity to share his love for space with others. It was a humbling reminder that even the smallest of voices can make a difference, and that every dream, no matter how big or small, deserves to be heard.